My father came to this country from Hiroshima in 1906. He was one of the Issei, the first generation Japanese immigrants. And like many other immigrant groups before them, they came here with a belief in the things that America stood for: jobs, educational opportunities for the children, freedom, and equality. But what they found was prejudice and mistrust. They also found there weren't many jobs available to them, so they were forced to become farm workers, fishermen, and railroad laborers. By the late 1930s, their children were growing up. We were called the Nisei, the second generation. Since we were born in this country, we're American citizens. And like any American kid, I had my favorite baseball team, the Brooklyn Dodgers, and my favorite cowboy, Gene Autry. We finally moved into town. I got a job as a grocery clerk. My brother planned to become a doctor. My whole family was so proud of him when he was accepted into college. He started classes in the fall of 1941.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
On the evening of December 7th, there was a wedding party at a restaurant in Little Tokyo. Gonguro Nakamura was toastmaster for the occasion. When he finished his introductions, he was arrested by the FBI. In fact, within a few months of Pearl Harbor, over 4,500 persons of Japanese ancestry were arrested. Almost all were community leaders.
On the day of Pearl Harbor, many Japanese sent telegrams pledging their fullest loyalty to the president. There cannot be any question. There must be no doubt. We, in our hearts, are Americans, loyal to America.
なんと言ってきてるの?
It's an order from the Western Defense Command. It says, all persons of Japanese ancestry, both alien and non-alien, will be evacuated from the area by 12 o'clock noon, Saturday, May 9th, 1942.
A Jap's a Jap. They are a dangerous element, whether loyal or not. There is no way to determine their loyalty. It makes no difference whether he is an American theoretically. He is still a Japanese, and you can't change him. You can't change him by giving him a piece of paper. The Japs we will be worried about until they are wiped off the face of the map. There is more potential danger among the group of Japanese who are born in this country than from the Japanese who were born in Japan.
Terminal Island was mainly a fishing community for several hundred Japanese. The days after Pearl Harbor, all Issei males were rounded up and taken to detention centers. Many of us were taken into custody right off our fishing boats as we entered the harbor with our load of fish. This left our wives and families at a total loss. In most cases, we had less than 48 hours to dispose of all our property and evacuate the island. We had nowhere to go.
I'm for catching every Japanese in America, Alaska, and Hawaii now and putting them in concentration camps. Damn them, let's get rid of them now.
In Little Tokyo, shopkeepers had about a week to do away with their merchandise and close their stores. Some sold their goods by auction. Others had evacuation sales, charging about 10 cents on the dollar.
We had to try and sell all our personal possessions, but people knew we had to sell quickly, so many of them tried to take advantage of us. Finally, my mother became so angry and frustrated that she put everything into a big pile and burned it.
A patriotic native-born Japanese, if he wants to make his contribution, will submit himself to a concentration camp.
First, we were sent to assembly centers, which were mostly county fairgrounds, racetracks, and livestock exhibition halls. They had set up barbed wire fences, searchlights, and guard towers. Most camps held about 5,000 people, but the one at Santa Anita racetrack, where we were sent, held over 18,000 people. Many of us lived in horse stables that had been hastily cleaned out. When it got hot, the smell brought out the horseflies. We were kept there for 6 months until permanent camps could be established.
The Pacific Coast is officially a combat zone. Some part of it may at any moment be a battlefield. Nobody's constitutional rights include the right to reside and do business on a battlefield.
At last the departing day came. Friday, May 29th, 1942. We were the last group of Japanese who were to leave Santa Anita. I was full of emotion when I thought that from tomorrow, there would not even be one Japanese walking in the greater Los Angeles area.
The train was very old. In each coach, there were 2 U.S. soldiers on guard with rifles and bayonets.
Herd 'em up, pack 'em off, and give them the inside room of the Badlands. Let 'em be pinched, hurt, hungry, and dead up against it.
Most of the camps were located in arid desert country where it was bitterly cold in winter, hot in summer, and unprotected from winds in all seasons. When we arrived, the place looked so big, so enormous to us. In every place we went, we couldn't escape the dust. Dust and more dust. Dust everywhere. I wonder who found this desert and why they put us in a place like this.
Many of the camps were not really finished when the first people arrived. The walls were just bare tar paper. The job of trying to make the place livable depended on us.
When we arrived, they gave us rooms, but there were openings all around the floors and the walls into the next room. We each received an army cot, a blanket, and we had to make our own mattresses by filling bags with hay. There was nothing else. No shelves, closets, chairs, tables, or partitions. Each family was supposed to be given its own living quarters, but many times more than one family was crammed into a room which was 20 by 25 feet with no partitions. None of the rooms had a stove or running water. Instead, each block of 13 or 14 barracks, housing 250 to 300 people, had a community mess hall, laundry, latrines, and showers.
All mail was censored, including personal letters and newspapers. Many people with relatives still in Japan wanted to write or telegram to let them know they were all right. My father sent us a telegram from Okinawa. It took about 2.5 months to reach us.
It was very hard on the Issei because no one was allowed to speak in Japanese at public meetings. And the Buddhist and Shinto religions were suppressed.
In spite of everything, we eventually adjusted to our new environment. We sent our children to school and organized scout troops and dances, sports teams, and social events.
I know my mother strongly opposes me, and my father doesn't agree with me. I know that some people on the block look at me with ill will, saying what a fool I am to go to war and die from the internment camp. But we must think of the future of all the Japanese Americans in the United States, of their freedom, equality, and rights. And to gain these, there is no better chance than now for a young man like me to join the Army. I hear hundreds of Nisei have already volunteered. They also have parents. Maybe they are looked upon as fools by others, but someday people will come to understand us. It is foolish to reply with malice toward injustice. We must have a big heart. We must show our sincerity. We must fulfill our duty.
The Nisei have bought an awful big chunk of America with their blood.
By late 1943, there were rumors of letting us out of the camps.
We are going to have large-scale massacres, or we might see free murder or manslaughter if any Japanese are permitted to return to the coast.
Finally, after 3.5 years, we were allowed to return to what we always considered to be our homes.
The life of most of us is now well spent. We stand in the evening of life where there is no hope. We're told and encouraged to relocate again into the world as a stranger in strange communities. We now have lost all security. WRA urges readjustment, relocating outside. Where shall we go? What shall we do at the twilight of our lives?
During the months of confinement, our minds lived in the future, not in the past. Hoping, planning, dreaming, and thinking. The freedom we had always taken for granted, as most Americans still do, began to take on deep meaning when we were deprived of it. There were times when we began to lose faith in ourselves and our ability to take it. Life in the camps was not easy. It was inadequate and morale-killing. But never in those months did we lose faith in the United States of America.